Joe was a simple man. He lived in a small house in Portland, Oregon. He drove an old pickup truck that made a strange noise every time he turned the key. His wife Leah worked long hours as a nurse, and his 8-year-old daughter Sophia filled their home with laughter and drawings. Every week, Sophia taped new pictures onto the refrigerator. Rainbows, dinosaurs, strange animals that didn't exist. Joe used to love those drawings, but something had changed. It started with a boat. His neighbor Dan had bought a beautiful white fishing boat. It was clean, shiny, perfect. Every morning, it sat in the driveway like a trophy, and every time Joe saw it, something inside him felt wrong. At first, it was small, just a thought. Why don't I have something like that? Then the thought grew. My truck is too old. My house is too small. My life is too ordinary. Slowly, quietly, dissatisfaction moved into his heart. The drawings on the fridge, they started to look messy. The house, too cramped. His job, just cutting grass all day. Even pizza nights with Sophia didn't feel as special anymore. Leah noticed. "Joe, what's wrong?" she asked one evening. Joe shrugged. Nothing. Because how could he explain it? How could he say that a neighbor's boat had made him feel like his whole life was not enough? On Saturday morning, Joe's phone rang. It was Tom, an old friend. "Hey Joe, remember that camping trip 10 years ago?" Joe smiled faintly. "Yeah, I think so. You picked up a bunch of acorns under that big oak tree. Said you wanted to keep them as a souvenir. You left them in my car. I just found them while cleaning my garage." Joe laughed a little. "Seriously? You still have them?" "Yeah. I'll drop them off this afternoon." Later that day, Tom arrived. In his hands was an old glass jar. Inside it, small, dark brown, each one still wearing its tiny cap. Joe took the jar and opened it slowly. The smell of dry wood and thyme drifted out, and suddenly, he was not in his living room anymore. He was back in the woods 10 years earlier. A younger Joe, a younger Leah. They had just gotten married. They had almost no money. They drove that same old truck into the forest, set up a tent bat, burned their first batch of hot dogs, laughed under the stars. The air was cold. The fire was warm, and life felt full. The next morning, Joe had picked up these acorns, not because they were valuable, but because the moment was. He closed the jar. Leah walked over. "What's that?" Joe smiled. "It's a memory." He told her the story. And as he spoke, something strange happened. He smiled again. A real smile. Leah laughed. "You were so clueless back then. You couldn't even set up the tent." Joe chuckled. "Yeah, but I was happy." Leah looked at him gently. "Aren't you happy now?" Joe didn't answer, because for the first time, he wasn't sure. That night, Joe lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking. He thought about his life, his health, his wife, his daughter, his home, his truck that never failed him. And then he thought about the boat. Just one thing he didn't have. And suddenly, it became clear. He had been staring at the missing one, and forgetting the 99 he already had. 99 acorns. A full jar. But he had been upset because of one. The next morning, Joe woke up early. He went into the kitchen and started cooking. Eggs, bacon, toast. Sophia sat at the table, swinging her legs. Dad, I had a dream about a giraffe. Joe turned and smiled. Oh yeah, what happened? And this time he really listened. When he stepped outside, he saw the boat again. The same white shine, the same perfect shape. But this time, it didn't hurt. He looked at his old pickup. There was a scratch on the door. Sophia had made it years ago with a key. He used to hate that scratch. Now he touched it and smiled. At the park, Joe started the mower. The grass was fresh. The air smelled like spring. As he worked, he noticed a patch of clover, tiny white flowers blooming softly. Normally, he would cut right over it. But today, he steered around it, left it untouched, because for the first time in a long time, he noticed beauty again. At noon, his phone buzzed. A message from Leah. What do you want for dinner? Joe paused. Then he typed, pizza. Let's take Sophia and eat by the river. He reached into his pocket. Inside were 2 acorns. He had taken them from the jar that morning. He looked at them. Small, simple, but full of meaning. Then he put them back in his pocket. That evening, Joe didn't think about the boat. He didn't think about what he lacked. All he thought about was this: driving his old pickup to the river, spreading a blanket in the back, eating pizza with Leah, watching Sophia run and laugh, chasing seagulls into the sunset. Joe realized something that day. Happiness is not found in getting the 100th acorn. It is found in seeing the 99 you already have. Because true richness is not about more. It is about seeing everything you already hold. Even a single acorn can hold an entire autumn. And Joe, he finally saw his jar full, completely full.